Om Mahaganapataye Namaha. In this video, I'm going to talk about the secret to the manifesting mind. The manifesting mind is one in which you can take a thought and create it very, very quickly. And in general, this state of mind is one that is extraordinarily productive and clear and extraordinarily desirable once you experience it. This is called focus. Focus is the state of mind you need to develop, and I'm going to explain more about focus and what this means precisely. First, I want to give you some examples of what an unfocused mind looks like. What are some of the symptoms of an unfocused mind? An unfocused mind is characterized by a mind that is scattered. Scatterbrained is one of the terms that's used. When your mind is cranking thoughts and you're drifting from thought to thought and you're sort of scattered. And the problem with this state of mind is if you're someone who's trying to create, being scatterbrained or unfocused is the opposite of the kind of mind that you need to create, because what you're trying to do in creation is focus a thought into reality. To bring a thought into reality requires focus. Focused mind is characterized by a state of silence. When you are utterly focused or completely focused, you will reach a state of silence. So, another way of looking at this is the unfocused mind could be likened to the conscious mind, where the focused mind is more of the subconscious and unconscious domain. Because what happens is through your focus, you are penetrating from your conscious mind down to the quieter states of your subconscious and unconscious. Now, to focus your mind, this is all related to Patanjali's samyama technique. Samyama is a science of focusing the mind, or focusing a thought or a mantra into reality by starting at your conscious mind and ending up at your unconscious mind. If you've watched my past videos, you'll know that the unconscious and subconscious are more powerful than the conscious mind, and are where you need to plant your thoughts, where you need to plant the mantras that you want to create in order for them to blossom. Working from within the conscious mind is working within the effect, which is to say, if you can understand the science of creation itself, which is beginning with silence, then there's sound, then you get light and form and all these different stages where you end up with this gross, seemingly physical material existence we experience. Working from within this matter to try to change it is very, very difficult, and as Dr. Ply always says, I think it's something along the lines of work without sweat. You should be able to do that with your mind, because your mind is what's creating anyways. What you're experiencing is the effect of what you've already created in the past. And rather than trying to work within the effect, you want to go and create a new effect. In order to create a new effect, you want to focus a new mantra, a new concept, a new thought, or a new idea that you want to create. In order to do that, you have to develop the focus. And that's why stage one, and this is where I'm going to tell you how to develop this focus, or what that looks like. What is it on a practical level? What does it look like to focus your mind, or how to focus your mind at a practical level? Well, we looked at the unfocused mind as something where you're drifting around. A thought pops up, you're there in that thought, and then that springs another thought, and you're there in that thought, and then maybe you see something in your environment, you hear something, or something is consumed through the five senses. Maybe it's a touch, and that's also springing thoughts, and you're just drifting around from thought to thought to thought, and you're in a state of confusion, a state of dissonance. Where we looked at where you have the pebbles. If your mind is a still lake, it's like throwing a whole bunch of pebbles in the water at the same time, and you have ripple effects going on, and everything's being canceled out. And your intuition isn't able to come through very clear. Your clarity of thinking, your precision in your decision making, all these things that are sort of characteristics that define a successful mind or a manifesting mind. is clarity, it's precision. And a focused mind is when you tie your mind to something. So stage one of the samyama is called as dharana, and dharana stage is tying your mind to a mantra, a thought, or a concept, whatever it is you want to manifest, or whatever it is you want to be revealed more information about. So tying your mind can take the shape of different ways to tie your mind, and you can experiment with all of them. You can use them one at a time, you can combine them, or you can use them as they are applicable to you. So some of the ways that I've been tying my mind is to silence. So in between your thoughts, there's a gap, and that gap is the seat or the lap of from which these thoughts are springing. Now, an unfocused mind is moving from thought to thought because it's doing is each thought becomes its identity. You're identifying with your thoughts, in short. You're putting your ego into thoughts. So those thoughts, as they arise, those are your identity. You're identifying with every thought, as opposed to focusing on that silence and making that your identity by focusing on the silence. Meaning, when a thought comes up, you don't give it your attention. You're still giving the silence your attention. You're aware of the thoughts there, but your focus and attention is on the silence. And what happens is thoughts start to bounce off of you. And eventually, the silence is what remains because whatever you put your attention and focus on is what's going to become prominent. Now, why your mind is out of focus is because even if you're doing a mantra practice or a meditation practice or any practice in the morning and evening or any in between, what matters is the in between time because that makes up the majority of your time. So if you're spending the majority of your time in an unfocused state, scatterbrained, going from thought to thought, not focused, and just kind of reacting to everything that's happening, reacting to your thoughts, reacting to your environment, etc. That is creating a neurology of unfocus. It's creating a neurology of scatterbrained. And so on a most practical level, this is a neurology that you have to develop. That's why at first, when you are trying to focus, maybe it's on a mantra, that you may find it a little challenging at first to bring your focus into the mantra. Or when you're trying to focus on silence, you may find it challenging because your neurology is currently wired for the opposite. And so it takes a little bit of consistency and persistence to rewire your brain or change your mind to be in a state of focus. So silence is one thing. Tying your mind to silence is one way. Another way is through mantra. Remember, you can use both of these. I use both of these. I'll use silence if I'm engaged in a or something where I need my focus and I can't uh, go through a process of tying my mind to a mantra. I'll try to remain in a foundation of silence. And then when I'm ready to bring a mantra in, a mantra is going to become so much more powerful when I'm already in a focused state of silence, where I'm putting as focus and silence as synonyms. They really are connected. A focused mind is a mind that is very pregnant. It's very fertile. When you drop a mantra in, because you're in, if you can remain in a state of heightened focus, that mantra you're going to be able to penetrate that mantra and push it into your subconscious and unconscious very, very quickly. You can focus it down to a state of manifestation very quickly. This is the idea or the main reason why you want to keep your mind in a state of focus. When it comes to mantra, if you've ever used a mantra, you'll find that you've probably noticed where your mind starts to drift around, where even if you're chanting the mantra out loud or thinking the mantra, you start drifting around and there's thoughts that are coming and you start thinking about maybe what meal you're going to have next or what you have to do after you're done chanting this mantra session. You're still chanting, but your mind starts getting drifting around, especially when you're chanting internally. And a way to remedy this, or one way to focus on the mantra and intensify that focus, is you pull your mind into the mantra by focusing on the articulation and the syllables as you say the mantra. So one thing you can experiment with is try when you say the mantra to not let a syllable escape your awareness, your attention. So if you're saying the mantra Shreem Brzee, Shreem Brzee, Shreem aware of the sh, the r, the e, and the mm. You're aware of the br, the b, and the r. You're aware of the z and the e. You pull your mind into every part of the sound as it changes. And in this way, you can see that it's not how fast or how slow you chant the mantra. This is a question that people ask. Should I chant it fast? Should I chant it slow? What's more important is focus. So often people say, chant the mantra slowly. Why would they, why you want to chant the mantra, why that's recommended, is because it gives you an opportunity to apply your focus to that mantra. You can chant a mantra fast in a very focused state, but sometimes chanting it slowly at first, just as I articulated a moment ago, will help you develop that focus. So typically, and when I'm chanting, it's good to start out slow, so that way you are bringing into your awareness every facet of this, every syllable, every phoneme of that sound as it rolls out. And then the more that you tie yourself to the mantra, the more that your pace will increase. But as the pace increases, your focus doesn't. Your focus remains. You're still aware of every articulated phoneme or syllable as the mantra goes. Now, this is good to do when you're in a chanting session and you're in a dedicated session, but also when you're going about your day, when you're talking to people, when you're doing things that don't require, a lot of intelligence, or a lot of, not intelligence, that's the wrong word, where if you have the space to chant and still do what you're doing, fine, that's more recommended. And after all, the chanting is an intelligence itself. You're fueling your brain with a certain intelligence that is going to also mold your brain, literally mold your brain. If you understand neuroplasticity, your brain is constantly shaping itself around how you think, how you speak, and how you act. They are creating neural pathways, and what you're doing with a mantra is it's creating a certain geometric wiring in your brain. Certain parts of the brain are becoming active. Certain parts of the brain are getting wired together. And the more that you're reinforcing this, the more intelligence of that mantra you're getting. So pull your identity into the mantra, just like we were talking about pulling your focus and attention into the silence. And even when thoughts come, you're tying your mind to the silence. You're spending your attentional energy on the silence. Similarly with the mantra, spend your attentional energy on the mantra and train yourself to not impulsively go into these thoughts. You have to go through this training process so you can establish a new state of mind, which requires going against the grain for some time. You're going to have to go against the grain, and that is going to be very, very different than what you used to. It means you're going to have to put forth more effort. But the more that you do this up front and front load that effort, and the more persistent and consistent you are, the more that will become natural, so that eventually the goal here is you will make the shift to where focused is a state of mind that is organic in your default state, and being unfocused is something you'd have to try to do. Let me give you an example. There's the great that comes to mind, the great saint Ramana Maharishi. This saint meditated for like over 40 years, and Dr. Ply tells a story where there's people used to go and just sit. He would just be sitting there meditating, and people used to go and just sit there in front of him and meditate with him, and whatever they would do. And Dr. Ply tells a story. There was these two people there, and they were talking about, one person was telling another person how they were finding it so difficult to remain in a thought-free state, and they were finding it difficult to get rid of their thoughts. And Ramana Maharishi, he came from a state of meditation, and he started to speak, which is kind of a rare thing apparently. You usually remain in silence. And he said, yeah, I have the same problem. And they said, you have the same problem? My God, you've been meditating for over 40 years. How can you have the same problem, What's that say for us? And he said, no, my problem is a little different. I have the problem is I find it difficult to pull a thought in. And you're having a problem of getting rid of the thoughts and pulling silence in, if you will. Because he has established a neurology, or a state of mind, that his default state, because he has been so persistent and consistent with it and focused on it, he has spent his attentional energy on this. And as a result, what he has purchased, if you will, is a default state of silence, a very pregnant mind. And silence, if you watch my video, if you haven't, I definitely recommend you check it out, called The Secret of Instantaneous Manifestation, where we looked at as silence as the quantum ground state, as the state of omniscience, the state of omnipotence, and the state of omnipresence is the quantum ground state, which is transcending all the effect of sound and its forms of matter. When you identified yourself with silence, which is becoming a yogi or self-realized, the self being the state of being, the identity of that silence, which has the intelligence and power to create not only the entire world, but anything that can be imagined. So we give an example of focusing your mind by tying it to silence, by tying it to a mantra. Another way, there's two more ways I'll cover quickly because this video is getting a little bit long, is through attentional awareness on parts of your body. Particularly, two areas that I recommend is the midbrain area, which is two ways you can hold your attention on that. One is by the space between your two eyebrows and a line that goes up the center of your forehead. You can go all the way up to the top of your brain, or you can keep it 1 to 2 inches right here and hold on to that space. Or you can visualize a pillar of light beginning at your brainstem at the base of your skull, going up to the top of your brain, and there's a tube of light. That, for meditation purposes, is your midbrain. And your midbrain is the seat of your subconscious and unconscious mind. It is the seat of the silence that exists within you, or this neocortex is the primitive brain. The neocortex is the effect that grew later on. It grew on top around the midbrain. So staying in the midbrain, if you've watched other of my past videos, you know that the yogis and quantum physics are both saying that the midbrain is where you manifest thoughts. Yogis say it's the third eye, where you put any thought that you put into your midbrain can manifest. The yogi or the quantum physicists are saying that it's your subconscious and unconscious is from where these thoughts that are creating your world are coming from, and that the midbrain, we know, is the seat of the subconscious. That's why it's very lucrative or very profitable, productive to keep your attention on the midbrain. So in summary, focus is a state of mind that you want to develop in order to not only increase the speed which you're able to manifest thoughts, but to remain in a state of a very fertile and pregnant mind, which you can impregnate easily with thoughts, but also affirmations. Also, if you want to understand something, if you come across, say you're working and a question arises or confusion happens, by holding on to the solution, what is the solution to this problem, you can get really quick responses because you have a direct link through that silence to your unconscious, which is your intuition. Intuition, clarity, peace, effortless, precise decision making. Higher intelligence, because they say that the greater your natural silence, the more your intelligence increases. That's why they also say the more that you meditate, the more your intelligence will grow, because silence is the highest intelligence. So these are some of the reasons why you want to do it. I know I covered a lot and I went kind of all over the place. If you have any questions or feedback that you'd like to get my response from, please leave them in the comments below. And as always, if you'd like to be notified for future videos, click subscribe and the bell notification button. God bless.